Welcome. Today I have three great salmon recipes for you to try out. And the first one is a caramelized salmon with a cherry salsa. And to put that together, the first thing we're going to need is a rub to put on the salmon. And we'll start with 3 tablespoons of packed brown sugar. And we add a pinch of black pepper. And we're going to grate about a tablespoon of orange. Mix that up. I have 4 salmon fillets. These are a boneless 6-ounce salmon fillet. They're skinless. You could certainly use with skin on if you wanted to. We're going to pan fry these today, and the brown sugar in here is going to help caramelize that salmon, give it a nice brown color. So we want to put this on the salmon and just rub it in. We want to work the brown sugar into the salmon, get it coated as good as possible, get that sugar dissolved, and keep as much of that on the fish as possible. After we get the rub on the salmon, I'm going to cover it and put it in the refrigerator. We can leave it in there for 2 to 6 or 8 hours. Something you can do in advance. Maybe you want to do it earlier in the day and put it in the fridge, and then come in later in the evening and pan fry it. It'll be all ready to go. I'm going to cover this up and put it in the refrigerator.
Today's recipes all feature salmon as our main ingredient. Salmon, as you may have heard, is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which are an important type of polyunsaturated fats. Omega-3 fats help maintain a healthy heart and may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease. In addition, these heart-healthy fats are needed for proper brain growth and development in infants. More research is needed, but emerging studies indicate that omega-3 fats may help to reduce the risk of certain diseases. A little later in the show, I'll tell you about some other great sources of omega-3s. But first, let's check in with Ron.
Now we're going to make the mango cherry salsa to go with the salmon. I have a fresh mango, and there's a large pit or large seed in the center of the mango. It's a kind of a flat oval-shaped seed. And to prepare the mango, we're going to start at the stem and just kind of work down the side, getting as close to the seed as possible. You just kind of feel that with a knife as you put it in there. And what you end up with is a couple large pieces like this, and then there'll be some residual pieces around the outside. It's not as much as what it might appear here, but we'll take and get that off there in a moment. Take and score the mango about every ½ inch or so, just down to the peel, but don't go through the bottom side. And then go in a crisscross fashion, and then invert it upside down, and your pieces come to the top, and we'll take the pieces of the mango, cut them off, add to our bowl.
Mangoes are a popular fruit around the world. Mangoes are juicy with a sweet taste and a high water content.
Do the same with the other half.
A mango contains a high content of vitamin A and vitamin C.
Then the rest of the mango is peeled on the outside. You just kind of feel around the edge there with the knife to where the seed is. And the rest of it is a large seed all the way through, so you really don't get that much more out of there. And we add a half a cup of dried tart cherries. The mango has that sweet, and the cherries are a little sour taste to them, so you get a little sweet and sour combination. A couple tablespoons of cilantro chopped. Some balsamic vinegar. I have 2 teaspoons. This is a white balsamic vinegar, but you could use the red as well. This white, I think it has a little sweeter taste to it. And about 1/4 teaspoon of the crushed red pepper. We'll set that aside, let that marinate a little bit, and then we'll pan fry the salmon. I want to use about a medium heat and warm the skillet up for a moment first. And it calls for about a tablespoon of olive oil. If you want to take the salmon and bake it, you could just put it in the oven uncovered, or you could use it on a grill outside, pan fry, or grilled outside. If you're grilled outside, I would keep it off to the side, not on that direct heat, a little slower because it's going to brown up real fast with the brown sugar caramelization in there. The salmon I'm using is just a frozen salmon that I would purchase in the supermarket, but you can certainly use a fresh salmon as well. You want something with a nice pink color to it, a nice fleshy feel to it, an overall good-looking quality to it. And we get as much of that juice as possible off the salmon. I'm going to pan fry this for about 4 minutes or so on the one side, get a little bit of brownness in there, and then turn it over and finish cooking on the other side. After it's browned up, then we're just going to plate it up and it'll be ready for presentation. This is something that you can take and prep your salmon up in advance, prep your salsa up in advance, come home from work, and within 15-20 minutes have dinner ready and have a very nice plate. You can see the bubbles starting to come up around the salmon and starting to dissolve that sugar, becoming more of a syrup. All right, now most of this syrup has evaporated or dissolved in the skillet. I'm going to turn these over. Starting to get that nice brown caramelization in the salmon. Give it a few more minutes. The salmon has a little bit of firmness to it. When it's uncooked, it's got a little fleshy and a more give. As it cooks, it tightens up, and then we can check a little later on with use a fork or a knife and just kind of work the flesh apart there and check to be sure that it's cooked through. Now I think we're about ready on the salmon. You check the salmon, it's just a light pink color to it. Flakes pretty easy, gives. Add some of the cherry salsa, get a little bit of the mangoes in there. And a little pinch of cilantro. And there's your first dish. Our second recipe is a seared salmon with Thai vegetables, and the first thing we're going to do to that is put a rub together also for the salmon, and then put it back in the fridge and let that rub absorb into the salmon. So here on the plate I have a combination of the seasonings. We have sugar, dry mustard, cumin, coriander, curry powder, chili powder, and salt. I'm just going to mix it all together. Salmon, again, are the same as before. They're the 6-ounce boneless, skinless salmon. And sprinkle it on each one of them, coat them. Do this on both sides. Kind of rub that around the pan a little bit to pick up all that extra seasoning. We want as much as possible on the fillets. And then we're going to cover the salmon and put this in the refrigerator. You get, a couple, 3-4 hours.
Generally, it's recommended that most people eat at least 2 servings of fish, especially fatty fish, per week. As I said before, the salmon that's featured in today's recipe provides a healthy dose of omega-3 fatty acids. Other fish which contain this kind of heart-healthy fat include sardines, mackerel, herring, tuna, rainbow trout, anchovies, halibut, and more fish. Omega-3 fats can also be found in a number of non-fish foods, including ground flaxseed, walnuts, pecans, and other nuts, in canola oil, soybean oil, flaxseed oils, and also walnut oil. Omega-3 fats are sometimes added to food products such as yogurts, granola bars, and some juices. A little later, I'll talk about some easy ways to increase omega-3 fatty acids in your diet. But now, back to Ron.
The second part of the recipe is to prepare the dressing for the salmon. And we're going to start off with rice wine vinegar, 3 tablespoons. This is going to go on top of the salmon and the veggies later on. Soy sauce, and we're using the light soy sauce with reduced sodium. There's a tablespoon and a half. A little sesame oil. Tablespoon. And add 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. Some fresh ginger. And for the fresh ginger, take and just scrape the outside of the ginger off. You can use a knife or a spoon. We're going to need a little of this in the next recipe as well.
Ginger root often has been used as an aid for stomach upsets to treat nausea associated with motion sickness, chemotherapy, and pregnancy. It has been used to also reduce the inflammatory response in arthritic joints. Ginger has the ability to stimulate the production of saliva. This makes it an effective agent for help with a dry mouth. Ginger is a rich source of magnesium and vitamin B6.
Mix the ingredients up, and then we're just going to put this off to the side until we're ready to plate the salmon. The next step is to pan fry the salmon. We add about a tablespoon of oil, olive oil. Let that warm up for a minute. Once we get the salmon going, we're going to go and start prepping up the Thai veggies, and we'll cook the Thai veggies while the salmon is cooking. We're going to let that cook for about 4 or 5 minutes on the one side, check it, and then turn it over and finish it off on the other side. The Thai veggies calls for bok choy. This is the bok choy as you purchase it in the store. You want something that has a nice dark green color to it. You don't want any yellow or burnt tops to it. The stems, you take those off just like you would celery. The entire plant is edible. You can chop this up and put it in a salad if you want, or we're going to cook it today, stir fry it. We're going to use primarily the tops, and you can also use the bottom if you wish, but I would give that 2-3 minutes in the skillet first and then add the tops after that, so you get a more uniform consistency. This has a high water content and it will wilt real quickly. So over here I have the tops that we're going to use. And we're just going to chop that up a little bit.
Bok choy, also known as Chinese cabbage, is a great source of vitamin C and vitamin A and a wonderful source of fiber.
Here's some green onions. They're cut on an angle. Red pepper.
Red bell peppers are high in flavor and an excellent source of vitamin C and vitamin A. They also contain folic acid and fiber.
We'll rinse that off.
Red bell peppers are good for you because they contain lycopene, an antioxidant that protects against certain cancers.
Cut the pepper into strips. We'll stop and check the salmon here real quick. Okay. Keep the strips off to the side. This calls for the shiitake mushrooms as well. The shiitake mushrooms come like this with a stem. The stem on here is very fibrous, very chewy, and we just take those off and discard those. Be sure and rinse the mushrooms off. A lot of people say not to rinse them off. My thought is, all the mushrooms, go ahead and rinse those off just before you use them. Let them dry enough that you're able to use them. But some people will just tell you to take and brush it off with a clean rag.
Shiitake is one of the few known natural sources of vitamin D.
So now we're ready to go ahead and start to pan fry for the veggies. I'll take all this over to the stove. We have our reserved ginger, a little bit of garlic. Then we'll check the salmon. Starting to get a nice brown color to it. Turn these over. Move that oil around. While that's finishing, we'll go ahead and start frying the veggies. We're going to use a little sesame oil. This is a recipe as well that you can take and prepare most of your items ahead of time. Get all your veggies cut and ready to go. Have your salmon with the seasonings on that, put them in the fridge, come home in the afternoon and just go ahead and pan fry your salmon and do your veggie at the same time. So again, it's another 20-minute meal. We're going to add the fresh ginger. And a little bit of garlic. Now we only want to saute that about 30-40 seconds, not much more than that. That garlic, if you overcook that, it will give a bitter taste to it. It's just starting to warm up. Then we're going to add the mushrooms and the peppers, soften those up a little bit. Salmon's starting to get a little firm, a nice brown color, starting to shrink a little bit, and it'll be ready in just a minute or two. I'm going to shut the salmon off and we'll just let that sit in the pan and it'll finish cooking in the pan while this is going. Okay, the mushrooms are starting to soften up. We're going to add the bok choy. And we're just going to wilt that a little bit. Only going to take a minute or so. Now you can see at this point the bok choy is starting to get a dark green color and it's starting to be a little translucent. So we're fine on that as well. We'll shut this off. Go ahead and plate this up. Add some of your veggies to your plate. We'll bring the salmon over. And then the dressing. Pour some of that on the salmon. And a little bit around the edge of the plate also. There's the seared salmon with Thai veggies. Our final recipe of the day is salmon with a ginger lime sauce. Now this recipe, different from the others, the salmon is baked instead of pan-fried. Although you certainly could pan-fry it if you so choose to. The first thing we're going to make is a ginger lime sauce because it goes into 2 or 3 components of the recipe. So to start off with, we're going to use a teaspoon of garlic, serrano peppers chopped. I have some chopped, but if you're using these fresh, you just cut the end off, split them. All your heat is in the center here with all these seeds and these ribs in the middle. And you just want to take your knife and move that out. If you like it real hot, you can certainly add some of these seeds back. If you put this in a little water and let it soak for a little bit, it'll be a little milder as well. When you're done doing this, be sure you rinse your hands off and be careful you don't touch your face or your eyes or rub your eyes because it's going to burn. Take the peppers and cut these in real small pieces. Compared to your jalapeno peppers, these are probably about 5 times the heat, so they're going to be noticeably warmer. So you don't need any big bites. And we just need a couple tablespoons of these. And I'm doing these real fine. And then with sugar, we're doing a tablespoon of sugar. We're using the fresh ginger again. If you don't have the fresh ginger, you can certainly use the processed ginger that you can buy in the store, or you can use the powdered ginger. Now, if you're using the powdered ginger, it's dried, it's more concentrated, so the rule of thumb is 3 to 1. So for 1 tablespoon of fresh ginger, you're going to want a teaspoon of the powdered. So the fresh takes 3 times as much. It's got a great smell to it, nice and fresh. Next, we're going to add soy sauce. This, again, is the light soy sauce, 3 tablespoons. Three lime juice. And 3 tablespoons of water. And all these recipes where we've been using these dressings, we've been putting water in there to replace some of the oil, to reduce the oil in the recipes. Okay, now our dressing is made, and we're going to put that on top of the salmon. Again, we have the same salmon fillets where they're 4 boneless, skinless, 6-ounce salmon fillets. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of the ginger lime sauce over the salmon. Three tablespoons of olive oil. A little bit of garlic. And we're just going to sprinkle a little paprika on there, just help it brown up a little bit.
Spices give flavor to foods with very little effect on their calorie or their sodium content of the meal.
It's going to go in a 350-degree oven, preheated. It'll take about 20 minutes or so.
We have talked about the importance of adding foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids into your diet. Here are a few easy and delicious ways to incorporate these omega-3s into your own meal plan. First, add some chopped walnuts and grilled salmon to a salad. Substitute fish in any of your favorite chicken recipes. Try a small handful of walnuts as a snack. Sprinkle ground flaxseed on your cereal, on your yogurt, or on your salad. Make yourself a tuna salad sandwich for lunch. Spread some trans fat-free margarine with some added omega-3s on whole wheat toast for a snack. If you think that you're not getting enough omega-3s, make an appointment with a registered dietitian to help you find creative ways to meet your own needs and improve your own well-being.
Next step is the seedless cucumbers for the recipe. I'm going to split the cucumber down the middle. And I want to cut this into long, thin pieces.
Cucumbers are a very low-calorie food because it contains mainly water. It has been used as a natural diuretic for many years. Cucumbers are botanically a fruit, but we eat them as a vegetable because of their sour, bitter flavor.
Turn them on their side, and we're going for some thin strips. I'll cut them in short strips. You could actually cut these in other shapes. This just gives it a little nicer presentation. Add those to some cold water to soak. It'll help crisp them up a little bit. Do the other half. All right, we've let that soak for a while now. I'm going to drain that off for a while. Then we're going to add some more of the ginger lime sauce to this and some fresh basil. Ginger lime sauce, it's going to take a half a cup. And the fresh basil, 3 tablespoons. And we're just going to julienne that into strips. Now, if you didn't have the fresh basil, you could certainly use the dried basil, but again, you want to use, instead of 3 tablespoons, just 1 tablespoon of the dried basil. This is going to be the base for the plate. The salmon will go on top, and then the more of the ginger lime dressing. We'll take some peanuts and saute those just for a minute or two with a little of the lime sauce as well. That'll kind of infuse that flavor into the peanuts. And while we're waiting for the salmon to finish up, we're going to take the peanuts and heat those on the stove with a little lime sauce.
Peanuts are a rich source of protein that is equal to meat and eggs. They're also well known for the contribution of thiamine, folate, magnesium, and phosphorus. These nutrients are responsible for blood and bone health.
3 tablespoons.
Peanuts are also a source of monounsaturated fat, carbohydrates, and fibers. Peanut oil contains the monounsaturated fat of oleic acid, and that is important in skin health. Recent research on peanuts have found antioxidants that also provide other health benefits.
Let that heat for a moment, and we'll also take some limes and slice those as some garnish. This only takes a moment or two for these to warm up, absorb that liquid, kind of plump up a little bit. Brings that flavor out in the nuts also. And that will be enough.
Limes are often used to accent the flavor of foods and beverages. In cooking, lime is valued for the acidity of the juice and for the floral aroma of the lime zest. 3 ounces of lime juice contains 50% of the needed amount of vitamin C per day.
And we'll go ahead and check the salmon, see how it's doing. Now you can see the salmon is starting to brown up a little bit, get a little firmer to the touch. It's a little soft, a little given here yet. Probably another 5-7 minutes and we should be about ready to go. It's got some nice color to it, a little bit of the marinade soaking up in there. Give it a few more minutes and then we'll be done. We'll add some of the cucumbers to the plate. The salmon fillet. Here are the peanuts. Fresh lime. And then a little bit more of the dressing. Some on top of the salmon. Your salmon with ginger lime sauce and peanuts.